Um,
Yeah.
in one of the talks, he he talked about how the body has its own internal coordinates.
Hmm.
The world has external coordinates, and there's the interface on on the outside of our body where we have to take external coordinates and convert them into internal, or
Hmm.
like then if we want to act out into the world, if I want to move my arm, I want to push this thing, I have to take internal coordinates and convert them into external coordinates.
Uh-huh.
That concept I definitely want to clarify a little bit more in terms of, from what I understand from what he said, and kind of just thinking upon it, the external world is subject to Newtonian laws,
Hmm.
but inside our body, within the blanket of our body, uh, there's a whole different set of physical laws that are going on inside us,
Hmm.
and so that kind of disparity is something I want to clarify. Of like, first of all, how, I know that the external coordinate, like, so angular momentum of my arm is converted through the skin folds into the fascial system and dealt with. um but how, one thing I guess I'm a little gray in is that how do you take internal movement and then convert it into external movement?
Hmm.
um which is kind of coming back to the conversation of how can we conceptualize raising my arm that isn't a muscle generated raising my arm?
Yeah.
um it's something I'm still trying to get a better idea of how to talk about that, because I know that I'm going to come across that question. Someone's going to raise their arm and say, well, how do you explain how to, bend your elbow
Yeah.
or pick up a weight if the muscle isn't doing that? And I have a rough idea of like, well, the muscles might, change shape, change and push out against the fascia, which ramps up the tension, which allows the
Hmm.
movement. But that whole dynamic between internal and external is still a little bit gray.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get what you mean. And that was my question to Stephen Levin. How do I explain the raise of the forearm without saying
Yeah,
that the biceps is doing it? And he said the body is reconfiguring. Uh, and for some time, I was thinking, well, I thought that they were excluding the muscle action, like there is no muscle action.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
there is muscle action, but in the plates of the weight thing, there is not just muscle action. There is
yes,
much more uh, around the muscle action. But in order to explain it, the everything that is under the iceberg that is more important than just the tip of it, um, like for me, you can find words to people that have some experiential by manual usage or manipulation of the body, or by physical action, conscious
yeah,
physical action. You can explain that in words, and um, that will ring a bell in their experiential. When I talk to people like dancers, I have a client. She's 70 something, and she has been a classical dancer. And then she taught ballet, and then she became a Pilates teacher, but she never studied. and everything that she studied, biomechanics, anatomy. She said, "Oh, I really don't understand. Why do I have to study these, like to do my ballet and my Pilates?" And then she came in and started doing classes. She studied with me to be a Pilates teacher, and then she came to do Pilates with me. And I started talking about the tensegrity and showing her. She's not an intellectual person. Okay, she likes she likes to move. Okay, she's
Yeah,
intelligent, but she likes the movement. And while I was trying to explain and see the integrity and the tension and soft matter and the reconfiguration and doing things, she said, "Well, of course, that's what I've been doing all my life." And I was like, "Fuck you." I'm trying to explain you something, and she said something, and then I realized, of course, she understands what I'm talking about, because
yes,
this explanation speaks to your experiential. So if you talk to experienced people, they will understand. They will not understand all the words and all the concepts, but they will understand that there's a juice there that
yeah,
talks to them much more than if you went with a biomechanic thing with leverages and the fulcrums and
yeah,
so
yeah,
um,
yeah. I think
so that yeah.
I totally agree with you. Um, Although I know some of the people that will be in the audience, and I think I have less probably there will be less questions about the muscle side of things. I actually think that a lot of it will come back to this crowd of people thinks the brain and neurology explains everything.
Hmm.
And I think that that might be the harder thing to sell to them is like I'm gonna have to figure out some way of explaining how what I'm talking about with the tensegrity and the skin and the fascia and the ectoderm and all this predates the development of the brain and the nervous system. And that if you kind of think of it that way, it predates it not only evolutionarily, but also
Hmm.
embryology wise. And if something predates something else, then the next step would say that the thing that predates the second thing uh, must be healthy and functioning for the second thing to function.
Yeah, yeah, I understand.
Um, Speaking of which, before we move on, did you finish the YAP course?
No, no, I haven't checked the second part yet.
I
I still have
started the
the
second.
second day.
Yeah, I think
And
I'm like maybe a half hour into the second part. Um, every time I've heard him talk, I have conflicted feelings. Um, there's been some things that he said that are like really changed the way I think. I remember he did a biotensegrid tea party where he was talking about the
fascist fabric.
abdomen. Yeah, and he said something just completely like without emphasizing it, where it's just like thinking of the abdomen as a joint.
Hmm.
And I was just like, holy shit! It was completely changed, like blew my mind and changed the way I think about the abdomen. But there's something so harsh about him and
Hmm.
the way that he talks
Yeah,
that rubs me the wrong way.
yeah, I understand.
And it can be hard for me to like I have I don't know 2.5 hours left of his presentation, and I've been choosing to go back and rewatch other things rather than finish it. And I also found that the first day was a little disorganized.
Yeah, 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 it was. Yeah, I agree
So
with
I
you.
don't know. I value his thoughts and I value his message, but I almost feel like the way that he presents it is like a school teacher like slapping you on the wrist with a ruler, like, why
Right.
don't you understand this? And it's like, ugh, I
He
don't
has been a school teacher all his life
know.
at university level and others. So, and he's very, he's, yeah, he's bitter with
Yes,
life, towards life. It looks like.
yes.
And I heard that he was used to teach with his wife, his late wife. They were very, 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 very close. And
Mm,
he still talks a lot about the loss of, and then he went into spirituality, deep into spirituality. Um, and it's kind of, it, I think it enlightens him to go that way, but it's a heavy, it looks like a heavy
yes,
loud, dark, darker side. Um,
yes,
and so I think he behaves accordingly. Yeah, he's heavy.
yeah.
He's heavy.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
But he's
I
very sweet.
before I started the course, I read, I think, the first of the two. My God, how do you pronounce the guy's name? Bleshmit.
Bleichschmidt.
Uh, I read one of those books, and
Oh,
that was fantastic. And I was expecting Yap's course to be much more along the lines of like tracking the development, and at
mm,
least the first day, maybe because it was a little disorganized, it didn't get into that much. I
yeah,
don't know what the second day will show, but
yeah.
um anyway.
And
So
he usually does that course in 6 days, so
yeah,
he
it's
has a
true.
lot more time to chew and to spank people, to slap
Yeah.
people in the face. I believe so.
um
Yeah,
Also, did you see or read the post or whatever that he wrote addressed to the Fascial Research Society?
yeah,
That was
yeah.
an, that was another example of like, okay, I get that you're frustrated, but like
Yes.
that's not the way to bring these people along.
I mean, he has no filters anymore, I think. So he just says on social media everything that he
Yeah,
likes, the way he likes, and he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit.
yeah,
That's what I hear when I see him speaking. He doesn't give a shit. He just says whatever his truth is without giving a shit to anyone else and to what other people may think or say or feel.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's why Leonid likes him so much because he's so blunt, so in your face, and he likes people like that because he's a little bit
yeah.
like that, yeah. Leonid, a little bit like boom.
Yeah, the difference with Leonid though is like Leonid's like that, but Leonid is still open. Where if somebody in the audience asks a certain question or brings something up that sparks his interest,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
whereas it seems like with the app, it's like if somebody asks a question, even if it's just for clarification, if the question at all questions what he said, his reaction is
His
defensive,
aggression.
rather.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway,
yeah. Let's see.
um,
I still have to go through the second half. I didn't want to see it online directly while he was speaking because it was a little boring to hear him to stay there and
yeah,
just hear him talk. I could see it recorded
yeah.
afterwards.
So
Good.
yeah, I would
And
love. Yeah, sorry, go.
no, I just saw your comments that you posted on our WhatsApp thing,
Yeah,
and I agree with you. What I said that you were first exploring it in a passive way, and then you started exploring it actively, and you described it as as a black hole or as vacuum cleaning it, vacuum sucking it. Yeah, and
yes,
that's a very difficult distinction when you describe, it's very difficult to describe exactly what you're doing it. what you're doing there. But I think that yaps, which is blacksmith expression, it's like enlightening to my clients when I explain them that the opposite of expansion is impansion. And for me,
Yeah,
impansion,
yeah.
in sensitive terms, in felt sense terms, it's exactly what I want to accomplish with that action in the folds. It's impansion.
It's funny
I don't.
when I first was playing around with the skin folds, I purposefully didn't let myself actively do it because I was afraid that the muscles would get involved. And I was
Mm,
and I thought if the muscles get involved and I'm contracting the muscle to pull into the wedge, that will just fill volume. You know, the muscle
mm,
will fatten and expand and will actually
mm,
maybe interfere with the ability for me to access that fold.
mm.
And then I don't remember what sparked me to try the sucking or the vacuum thing,
Uh-huh.
but all of a sudden I felt like, oh, I can actually I'm actively doing something, but I'm not using my muscle,
Yeah.
which is very intriguing and kind of eye-opening to me. It was like, oh, I can create and direct a movement without using my muscle because we're trained to think that the
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
way to
Although you're using the
consciously,
muscle, huh?
yeah, well, I don't know what I'm doing. It doesn't feel like my muscle
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. It doesn't feel like using an external contraction. But
yes,
if you do that whole black hole action that you mentioned, and then you try
yeah,
to feel the tension in the muscles that I suppose there is an increase of tension. So
yeah, yeah, it's
it's
weird.
just to focus. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Uh,
I would love to kind of experience some of the stuff
Okay,
you've been doing,
okay,
um because I think it will definitely like help enhance what I've been doing and also inform me of just conceptualizing things.
good. So I usually use my Pilates equipment because it helps me.
Yeah,
But I think there are some positions of the body where the folds are enhanced, and that's what I can guide you through.
yeah,
And just one thing, regarding what you just said about using muscles and being afraid that they will interfere with the mechanism. For me, um, you remember one talk Leonid gave to me and Miguel, where he talked about the lab, the T1 T2 relation, and he made a cross with four fields, T1 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 T2. You remember?
I remember, but I don't remember the specifics. I remember
Okay.
that graph. Yes.
He was talking about, he was differentiating what is happening in real life, what is happening in when there is lesion,
Yeah.
injury, when there is what happens where in the situation of the lab where you control the environment and the movement is very controlled, so you use a lot of constraints so that you can direct to specific kinds of actions inside the body without interference of everything that usually happens. And then the other one was I don't remember the fourth field, but um, pain or something. I don't know, discomfort or
Yeah.
something. So um, in here, I try to see my work and these guiding positions as the lab situation, where I try to take away the possibility of other engagements,
Mm.
external of the normal external engagements. But in my daily life, I'm not thinking about the folds, and I'm not seeing the folds happening as in these situations, but they need to happen. And the
Yeah.
consequence of them happening is not feeling any discomfort, limits of ranges of motion.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
No, that
this is just my thoughts because I haven't discussed it with Leonid, but uh, these are my thoughts on that. Okay,
no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
you have any kind of elastic bands
I
or
don't
a
have
towel?
any a towel.
Yeah,
Yeah. 1 second.
or something that is not big, it's short, but you can hold too.
Yeah. 1 second. I've got a
Yeah,
small
good, good,
towel
good,
here.
good, 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 good. And um, try to be um, well. First, it's better to do the uh, first lying on the floor without a towel. Just can you do a roll over? Bring your legs and over your shoulders. Yeah, like that, like so. Okay. So from that position, if you place your toes, maybe the ground would be too much, but if you have something that you place your toes on,
Yeah.
okay, and the knees are still bent, so your hands are on the floor in front of you, and I'm
Yeah.
going to try to target the lower fold, so the pubic and belly button fold.
Yep.
As you stretch the legs on in that position without moving the toes, you can stretch the legs,
Yep.
flex them, and flex them again, again. So you stretch, yes. And as you stretch the legs, you will feel the tension in your back muscles of the legs and around your spine, back, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So instead of just thinking of stretching the legs, instead of, so you bend the legs,
Yep.
instead of thinking of stretching, you think of folding towards or creating a vortex, like Lina said, towards the belly button. So the belly button will be sucked towards your lower spine, your lumbar spine. Yes. And the rib cage will be open over the abdominal. You understand what I'm saying?
I don't understand the rib cage part.
Okay. You can. I'm going to show you. Yeah. So you will be in that position. You'll be in that position, but these will be sucked in,
Yep.
and the rib cage will be totally open, not squeezed in. So
I see.
you do these
Yes.
action. You see? Oop.
Yes.
So you replace one with the other. So you're there, and you replace. If the feet are higher or supported by something higher, would be easier for you to do those two actions against a sofa or so. Yeah, yeah, doesn't mind. Perfect, perfect. Yeah. So you just yeah, perfect. It's perfect. Good. And now, as you open the rib cage and sink your belly button under the rib cage towards the lumbar spine, can you feel the release in your back and on your at the back of your legs?
I can feel What can I feel?
Do the opposite. In that position, do a intra-abdominal pressure, increasing intra-abdominal pressure.
Yeah.
So push your belly button out. Yeah, you will feel the tension increasing around your waist, your lower back,
Yes.
the back of your legs. Now do the opposite. Do a depression, lower pressure. Yes. Can you feel the difference in tension around those areas or not?
Yeah. I feel more
Okay.
tension in the back of my leg when I do the belly button out.
Intra-abdominal. Good. Okay. You, I also use, so those are for me the rib folds and the lower belly folds and pubic bone. And I use also the neck and the head. So I raise the clavicle, the shoulder girdle up towards, so I stretch the back skin and I sink inside that um
Yeah.
uh, the collarbone. So the head is trying, as a lemon squeezer, is trying to get inside the rib cage. I'm melting inside my rib cage.
Yeah. And that
And that
enhances the,
also helps to use the other two folds. So for me, one fold helps all the others.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one of the thing. This is without much tension because it's your weight being supported, and you
Yeah.
can bend the legs. And as you stretch the legs, you increase all the folds. The lower fold, the rib cage opens, and you sink inside your chest as you stretch the legs. Oh, and you can stretch them all the way. Yes.
Mm.
Okay. So you can build on that um, reconfiguration inside yourself. Don't be don't be stuck. Just keep moving. Imagine the Gamberto's constraint.
Yeah.
Yes, and keep feeding it with tiny movements of your rib cage, of your shoulders, of your everything. Even the hips, inside the hips, you can, yes, you can increase the motion. The jaw also increases. There is, so I see searching for um, Gilberto's constraint everywhere, so I can withhold positions without muscles overcoming the position.
So I just figured out, I think just it was before 2 seconds ago, I was struggling to do in this position the rib cage up, sucking
Uh-huh.
the belly in,
Uh-huh.
which I can do in a different position, but I was struggling to do it there, and then I just got it, and I felt my lower back completely let go of tension.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So there are other positions.
yeah,
The lower your spine, bend your legs. Yeah. Keep your knees towards your chest. So take the feet off the ground. Yeah. And feel how you can um I'm going to use the word suck the belly in, but it's not a sucking in, it's a letting it go inside,
yeah,
folding inside, and opening the rib cage. And the opening of the rib cage can be made in the upper rib cage. So you can fill in your upper chest and it opens the upper chest. I don't know how you, I don't know you, so I cannot coach you better. Or I can do a breathing in without letting the air coming inside. So
yeah,
your diaphragm will expand the lower ribs all
yep,
around.
yep.
So I don't know what's better to you, but I want that sense of emptiness there. And as you lift the legs towards the ceiling, there will be a point where the belly will bulge, will start
Mhm.
popping up. Yeah.
Yep.
So those entrances will be, I say closed. Those folds can no longer work for themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can work on that position with increasing external tension by stretching the legs up and being able to keep that softness and reshaping of all that front part. I can
Yeah.
also use my arms towards the ceiling in that position and have a resistance from behind and just pull the resistance from behind or grab some weight on your hands. Yes, if you start pulling something, you will need to do um, some stabilization.
Yes.
And I want that stabilization to be inner stabilization, to not use the outer muscles, not use the barrel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that depends on your capacity to to do that replacement.
Man, this is hard.
And then there is more because you can do like the legs raised where they were with the belly in and replacement, and then you do one leg down and up, one down and up, that you see. So you're
Yeah. Yeah.
using the leverages to increase the demand as long as you can keep it in. So this is the easier way to get in contact with that. You lower one leg, yeah, and I would use the neck and the shoulders. Yes. So sink from the upper part so you can find that lower folding better. Or yeah. Yeah.
It's so hard for me personally
Yeah.
with the hollowing, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hollow this.
But you understood the sensation?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So sit. Now sit. Just one more. And then I'll let you talk.
Sit on the floor on a chair.
Yeah, just sit and reach. The traditional sit and reach. Yeah. So you can sit a little bit backwards behind so I can see you. Good. And now just reach forward and stay where you're comfortable. Like
Yep.
where there's some strain, but it's
Yep.
not pain. Good. Okay. Now let your head fall down. Good. Stay there. You will from the belly button and from the lower fold, you will suck it in. You will pull the rib cage open over the belly. You will
Mm.
lift the shoulders toward your ears, sink the head between your shoulders, and go for 1 or 2 centimeters more and stay. Yeah. Again, sink the belly button in, open the rib cage over the belly, lift the shoulders high towards your ears, and sink the head inside and go 1 or 2 centimeters more. And keep reshaping, keep finding space, yes, inside you. Don't be linear. Go to one side and then the other. Pull slightly from the right rib or the right shoulder, or sink more the right ear or the left ear. So you find the little restrictions and you'll start nourishing the little capillaries that you talked about. Yes, that allow you to disperse the external load inside. And in the longest position that you can acquire, you can also, as you said, use the ankle folding, but be attention, don't let that replace the belly button and ribs fold, because when you increase that fold there, it will replace the rib cage for sure. So don't let it close. And in that position, feel it feels a lot of heat, I know, but there is space. It's strange. And
Yeah.
if you let your belly button out and do a belly pressure, you will increase the tension all over yourself at your arm strings, lower back, upper back. Yeah. And you can, yes, if you suck it in and you pull the ribs, you gain 1 centimeter more and you become, we use the word organic. You're more uh, jelly-like, you're more, you
Wow.
see, and the breathing can also nourish that from inside because the breathing is to the left, to the side.
That I've never explored that in that way, particularly the
Mm.
hollowing. Like what I've been doing with when it comes to the belly fold is I'll just kind of like drape over, I'll see the fold,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and then I'll pull the fold in
Yeah.
and just let myself kind of like invaginate myself like that. But I have yet to play around with the pulling back
Yes.
in an effort to like advance the rib cage over.
Yes. When you advance the rib cage, it's the floating ribs at the back that
Yeah.
I notice opening. So when
Yes.
I open there, I gain more range. And yeah.
Now, question on the lower abdomen fold.
Hmm.
Can you explain to me exactly which, because I understand the belly button fold. I understand you can kind of like move the ribs back and down and you get a folding kind of more around the
Hmm.
sternum, but the lower fold, and I get the groin fold,
Okay.
the lower abdominal fold I'm still unsure of. And
Okay.
that might just be
So
because in my body I don't have as good of a
for me, the belly button fold folds straight towards the lower back.
yes,
It's a straight, it's the gear wheel, pure,
yes,
okay, inside. Taka, 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 taka. Okay. So it folds myself in two. Okay. The rib cage fold, it's not a fold like that. I I go, see, like this.
yeah,
Yeah. So this fold goes towards the inside of myself. It
yes,
doesn't go straight like the belly. It
yes,
goes up and over. So it
yeah,
pulls me. It's
yeah,
a thing that I can go inside and explore that thing. Okay.
yes.
And the pubic fold for me is the opposite of this one because it goes, I connect to this fold if I come from my perineum.
Ah,
So if I pull the perineum in, if I pull between my balls and my anus, if I pull it
yeah,
in, these will go inside, you see? I'm not doing
yeah.
anything here. I'm using my perineum and these responds towards the inside. So what I see is a connection inside the pubic bone, inside the ball of the hip,
Yeah,
like this, the as the opposite to the ball of the rib cage.
that's very interesting because I've been first of all, when I stand and do the belly fold the way that I showed you,
Mhm.
and I bend my knees and I almost like I start to squat, but I'm really folding here. I have noticed a fold below that but I guess until you just described it, I struggled to isolate that. But you're
Mm,
the way you described it of pulling down, almost like you're trying to pull it down into the bowl, like
exactly.
like you're trying to pull this up.
Exactly.
And it's similar to when I've been working on the in some of Leonid's videos with the kids, he shows the emergent line of the back of the ilium,
Hmm.
where he pushes up on the butt and you see those.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've envisioned that pulling like my back skin down into the
Uh-huh.
back of my pelvis,
Yeah.
but I never made that mental switch of thinking of the same thing but from the front.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
And actually, that front line, that pubic line, for me, goes inside and it goes towards the sacroiliac and
Yeah.
coccyx zone.
Yes.
So
And
the opposition is there.
I can see as I'm focusing just on that,
Uh-huh.
the belly button fold has to come along.
Yes, it happens. It happens. So this is
And then
what,
if I add the sucking up of the ribs, I go even more.
and then you add the rib the fold
Yeah,
here also. Yes, makes sense.
it does. I don't know if you've played around with this, but one of the things, because of whatever limitation I have, that I've struggled with is doing a full depth squat where my head doesn't go forward. So like
Mm-hmm,
imagine
mm-hmm.
doing a full depth squat and keeping my eyes looking at something straight.
Let's
And
do it.
so I've played around with doing this abdominal fold and the back of the neck fold.
Mm-hmm.
And after I do that a few times and then I go into a squat, it seems like something is opened up. But anyway, I'll let you
I
take
no,
back over.
I saw your pistol squat,
Yeah, yeah.
and I saw exactly that. And for me, these fold here, so folds are always from the front to the back, always. So if I do these, I'm opening the fold. This fold, as this fold here on the collarbone sinks inside all around the shoulder girdle, I sink inside and I meet the fold from the rib cage. So they meet from down and up. And this is my experiential. I don't know if
Yeah.
Leonid or if there's any anatomical explanation for that. This is my trip here. But here the fold goes as in the pubic bone. It goes towards the occipital
Yeah, yeah.
zone from the throat. I do
Yep.
this is the fold, okay? Here. I'm not contracting the sternocleidomastoid or anything. I'm just oh, it's a oh, you're it's a deep pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
low
been
pressure.
playing around with this one and then turning and doing it at an angle.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And this has really helped. I've had for years around my hyoid and trachea tension, and this has really helped that. And I also have found that with this fold, particularly if I do it at a rotation or an angle, I feel it almost feels like the base of my tongue,
Yeah,
the floor of my tongue is being stretched a little bit.
yeah,
Now
sure.
I'm interested in something you just said, because you said that you do the folds always from the front.
Yeah.
And I've done basically front, side, back, and with the back, I was studying some. I went to the the museum in New York, and they have a bunch of Greek and Roman statues. And I started taking pictures and seeing where the lines and folds are. And I noticed that they had one where it was a head and a neck, And if I went behind and looked at the back of the person's head and neck, at the middle of their neck and at the base of their skull was a fold. So I've been playing around with those where I'll tilt my head back, I'll feel the skin fold, and I'll try to pull
Yeah.
at the mid one, or I could take my fingers up and feel a smaller one at the base of my skull at like the
Uh-huh.
OA and do that. And it's I pair that one, I'll do that for a little bit, and then I'll do this.
Uh-huh.
So anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just see I'm using dorsalization concept of Leonid. So he uses
Yes.
dorsalization as a basic concept for organizing. And in at this neck occipital zone, I do as you did here, and I'm thinking of opening this fold here.
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Yes.
opening the fold. And then when I close it down, I don't close, I close. I
Yes.
do
That's exactly what I've been. Yes.
there. Okay, yeah. And in the middle of the neck, yeah. In the middle of the neck,
Yeah.
I open. As I do these, I see myself sinking there. So I do these and I lift my shoulders. So
Yes. It
I
feels
lift
like the
them
front of your neck is being tucked.
drawn in. So I help
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
actually to being drawn in so that I can feel more support there, more freedom instead of being
Yes.
shoulders down, because we learn from everywhere shoulders down, fuck shoulders down. There's no shoulders down, okay? Only in dance or military. You need to have shoulders down
Yes.
for performance. It's not for usage.
100%.
Yeah. So
It's funny.
so the
I've also studied.
yeah, yeah.
I was just gonna say I've also studied a bunch of photos of different indigenous tribes around the world that still are able to do, full depth squats and eat their meals and this and that. And and that's one of the things that one of the raps I have against DNS. The more I've taken DNS, and everything has to be elongated and this and that. When you see these people hang out around the fire eating their meal in a full depth squat, they're like,
Yeah, of
they
course.
look like they're slumping. They
They are
look like they have horrible
reconfiguring.
posture. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the squat, um, I can do something to show you, or you do you want to do it on the floor? You wanna do it, and
Sure.
I
Yeah.
guide you. Okay. So you
Yeah.
sit you just sit down on the floor.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe on your side, so I can see you on your side, and a little bit away from the computer. You stretch your legs out. Yeah. Okay. So you're standing. This is easier if you have something to hold on, okay? Or if you place your hands behind your neck, and the hands behind your neck is just for you to be able to lift the rib cage and sink here and open the rib cage fold so that you can dive
I see.
inside your rib cage, okay? So you're there. And in this position, you start bending your legs with your feet with your heels together. You pull your heels towards you, but you don't sink in your rib cage, and your belly button is pulled in. And then you stretch the legs and you keep the height, the same height. So you stretch the legs down on the floor and you keep the same height. So you're lifting yourself, you're creating height in that, yes, at the waist. So you open the lower ribs, the false ribs as you bend, and that's enough. So you're hinging at your um,
Yeah.
groin. Okay, it's very tough. The second part, would be I can try to do it, okay?
Yeah.
Let me see. So the house is a mess because it's full of dogs everywhere.
That's all right.
We have a dog, so maybe okay. Sai, sai, sai. Sai, bebê. Sai. Oi, sai, sai. Okay, now knee. Sai, 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 sai. Sai, sai. Okay. Can you see me like that?
Yep.
Okay, so sai, sai. So as I'm here, open, and this needs to be supple. And as I pull my legs, I don't sink down. And as I stretch, I increase the in and up thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold. And yeah. Then I'm going to use just one leg because I usually use something to support it. Huh? I do the same. I use this leg, but I don't sink down. I don't let this connection happen. I need the connection to go inside. Okay, so I use a different connection, not a straight line. So
Right.
I raise my leg and I pull it and I stretch it without sinking because otherwise I'm falling back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need to open and get over with the leg lifted and I move it, but I don't connect the abdominals, the rectus and
Yeah. Yeah.
obliques and everything. Okay, so this is what happens when you do a squat here. If you do the squat connecting this part with this part, or that way, you're actually bending and falling. So if you're falling forward, you're falling backwards.
Yeah.
I I say that the squat needs to be done this way, full squat. So when I full squat, tiny, side, side, side. So you go here, knee, side. It's almost feeding time.
Yeah. Don't worry. Don't worry.
So you see my belly?
Yeah.
Good. So when I go down, if I go down like so, this is still open. It's still open. It's still open. It's still open. I will start rounding my lower spine, my lower back, but I don't sink on my upper chest because
Yeah.
this is open, and I can overhead squat without falling.
Mm.
Okay, so I cannot connect the front part of myself during the front squat.
Hmm. This is completely, well, everything's related, but this is slightly off the skin fold topic. But what's interesting about this is you were having me pull my abdomen in
Mm-hmm.
and my body was getting taller, right?
Uh-huh.
Now I can also cause myself to get taller by creating a lot of intra-abdominal pressure and pushing out. So
Yeah.
if I push out in all directions, I get taller. If I pull in, I get taller,
Mm-hmm.
which comes back to a conversation you and I have had about muscles and auxetic behavior.
Mm.
And something that I've kind of been running through my head is, okay, I can make my body auxetically get bigger by creating abdominal pressure, taking a breath in. Everything expands and almost everything gets taller and wider auxetically. But I can also do the same thing the way you just did, which is having one volume or compartment, for lack of a better word, of my body get smaller as the other gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made me think, and I actually was curious about the muscle auxetic thing because Steven says, Dr. Levin says muscles are auxetic, they get fatter and longer together. And I kind of thought in my head, well, the only way to really know that would be to have a dynamic MRI take images of a muscle
Hmm.
And I found one research paper online that took dynamic MRI of abdominal muscles during forced breathing, coughing, etc. And the abdominal muscles maintained virtually the same volume during different activities. So the muscle got longer and thinner or shorter and fatter. And I kind of was like, because the whole auxetic thing, I firmly believe that our muscles in our body can behave auxetically, but I also feel like they can do the constant volume shape change thing too. And anyway, when you were having me do this and I was getting taller, it made me think of that muscle,
Longer
that
and thinner.
research paper I found, because I think that they can do both.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember I brought it up to Susan on a call I had with her, and she said that she's like, well, we can prove now with video that when a lizard or a frog tongue reaches out to grab a fly, if you slow down the frame, you see that it gets fatter as it gets longer. And she was using that, but to me, I was like, that's
Better?
not what I. She says that it gets fatter as it gets longer, but I'm like, from what the pictures I've seen, it gets thinner and longer.
Yeah, I think so.
Um. Anyway, I guess that's something else that maybe we
Hmm.
could bring up on the Sunday's call
Yeah,
is
yeah, 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 yeah.
that it seems like the dynamic behaviors we have in our body, they have the ability to be auxetic, but they also have the ability to have that constant volume that this MRI showed.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, and I'm just thinking of a muscle action behaving auxetically in contraction or expansion. But I'm also thinking of a global action, a movement where I feel that I can have some being thinner and longer, and others being shorter and fatter. So
Yes,
I can have completely mixed behaviors during one motion, and I cannot identify exactly here I'm auxetically contracting or here I'm eccentrically contracting. If I think of my chest in this motion, I'm eccentrically contracting
yeah,
and expanding, and here on my lower belly, it's the opposite. Or
yes,
if I think on the invention, I feel that my chest is being stretched and being, I don't know, the tissues are being made thin as I see in the outside the volume increasing. So
yes,
what is what there?
yeah,
And the other thing
uh,
of you said you could feel longer by using by being thinner or by using intra-abdominal pressure. If you use intra-abdominal pressure, you cannot move from there. You
yeah,
restrict your motion.
yes,
So, and that is one of the cornerstones of DNS.
yeah,
It's don't move, like stay as a bulk.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
like a baby. Babies are bulks. What the fuck? Babies are not bulks. Babies can go all around. They
exactly.
so uh, and we don't have the same body as the baby. For me, these and for my clients, this increase in range of motion that you just felt, it's like absurd. This is the word. It's absurd in some of my clients. I have
Yes,
clients that I'm with them for 20 years. They cannot move because they are, well, they move, but they are sporty. But, and because I'm using the folds like very sharply, their ranges of motion in places that they didn't even imagine they could improve their ranges of motion, they suddenly increased. It's magic. It I
yes,
cannot explain the magic, but I can report the magic. and
Yeah.
the
I
strains and the pains,
okay.
everything.
I've been having similar experiences with clients of mine and myself, and the only way I can conceptualize it is that ability, that coming back to distribution, is where we're improving their ability to distribute the external forces into internal spreading of forces, and we're also improving their ability to um the way I conceptualize it is like improving their ability to distribute, but also to funnel through the joint space, rather than having, when you can't distribute, the tissues around the joint have to stiffen
Yeah,
and block.
yeah,
Whereas now we're allowing everything to just flow.
yeah,
Another good word is flow. We're allowing the
yeah,
forces to
yeah, yeah,
flow.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, through exploring a lot of this stuff, I guess I've just become aware of a few areas of contradiction in some of the people when they talk about it, and that they talk about dynamic behaviors, and they talk about the shape change, and they talk about all these emergent properties, but then they'll talk about a muscle only being
Yeah,
auxetic.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
or the body only behaving auxetic. And anyone who's explored different breathing practices have experienced, you can breathe with the chest getting bigger and the belly hollowing. You can breathe with the belly getting bigger and the chest not moving. You can breathe with both. It would make sense that we would want to use as many of these things as possible.
yeah, 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 yeah. I think well, they get we get very stuck to concepts like auxeticity or I don't know, things that are when I talk about distribution, it's a very you can interpret it very widely.
Yeah.
And also folding. Okay, what is folding? This is the fold at the belly button. Well, it's something. It's very cool to talk about it. There's no anyone can interpret it the way he wants,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
no problem in that. As in auxeticity is a defined concept, physiology, and I'm when you talked about you were very concerned about the structure, how structure is conceived in the body and maintained, and I'm completely mad now about Gerald Pollack with the fourth phase of water and his possibility of not there are no geometric or there are geometric things, but it's other things that make things combined. So you cannot go for the triangles and for the like, hey,
Yes.
it's very close concept. Those are very close concepts, and people are finding amazing things that we bump into walls as one of those findings is thrown to us, and we say, and now what do I do with my world? Oh, I just
Yeah.
forget it, and I stick to my truth is,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. I went on a deep dive of Pollock a few months ago, and I've been trying to keep that in the back of my head as I've gone back to some of this other stuff, because there's something about the behavior of knowing that the majority of us is water, but knowing that the majority of us is not liquid, it's the gel, and the gel has its certain dynamic behaviors, and just kind of trying to feel how, and the skin folding really taps into that. I feel like when I'm doing
mm,
the skin folding, it does feel like there is a uh there's almost like a liquid flow component of it, but but it's not liquid. It has more structural integrity than liquid. So you
Mhm.
can almost conceptualize like the rearranging of all the little collagen fibers that are immersed in the gel. It just feels like there's a lot of that rearranging going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Um,
connecting that to what we just said, what you said in the beginning about the internal scale and external scale, and how does one translate to the other? You call it scale or something else, huh? Not
um,
scale, but
uh, the word that coordinates.
coordinates. Yeah. Uh, the sense, what you're trying to describe, and you have no exact words to describe what you know by feeling. It's what I see as the internal coordinates, regarding to the external coordinates that we can perceive very easily, and my clients can perceive very easily. But I keep on directing them as I see them meshing inside and rumbling inside of themselves. I see, yeah. Do you feel those heats coming in and going? Those little tensions coming and going, the heat, the pressure going in, the hollows that happen. That's the internal expression of the simple motion that you're doing by reaching towards your feet. So your body is a volcano in action, happening as Leonid describes it, and we feel it by using it. So you can
I think
describe it with a lot of terms. If you haven't experienced it, it's different.
I think I just had what might have been a aha moment. In one of the talks I was going back over that Leonid talked about, he was just saying that we take it for granted that the jump that we have to make from going from the womb to the external environment. And when you're in the womb, we were conceived in a not liquid but an aquatic like environment that is subject to soft matter gel like behaviors and forces. So our internal coordinates, our internal behaviors abide by that because that's what we were formed in. But when we pop out into the external environment, we now are having to deal with hard matter coordinates in physics.
Hmm.
And I think from what I understand, what Leonid is saying is the external coordinates, the angular momentums, the force of gravity, the ground reaction force, those are forces, Newtonian forces that are based off of how does hard matter interact with one another.
Mhm.
And as soon as that those forces are subjected to our body, we have to figure out how to convert the hard matter forces into the soft matter aquatic behavior. And then we have to figure out if I want to move, if I want to stand up from the ground, I have to figure out how to take this aquatic internal environment and force production and be able, I need to figure out how to take that and apply a hard Newtonian matter application of force into the environment. So
I understand.
it's that conversion. I don't know. I was just when you were talking, I was just thinking about that, and I was like, I think one of the keys here is understanding that our bodies internally are based off of the environment that we formed in, which is that aquatic um, womb
Yeah,
environment.
yeah. Uh-huh.
And it's not like we spit out into the earth and then like our whole internal makeup reconfigures and changes matter. It's going to be like that till we die.
Hmm.
So we evolution has figured out how do you take, and also just think of the evolutionary process that started in the oceans,
Yeah.
and then like we came onto the land and we had to figure out how do you take this physical structure that has been evolved to be in an aquatic environment and then be able to withstand against the forces of hard matter.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I understand what you're saying, and there's something that I also wanted to mention to Luni that it occurred me the other day. I was thinking about the different clocks inside of us, and the only clock, or the, well, yeah, internal clock that is visible, very visible, is the breath. It's the only physiological action inside you that is in people, in animals that are on Earth. It's very visible, and
yes,
it really moves you without you doing anything. It moves you from inside in a very expressed way. And it's, you were talking about the birth from that environment. That the first action we do is from inside out, is the in breath. We
yes,
pull it, but it's a thing, it's a burst that makes us, uh,
yes,
reconfigure from inside. And that is something that, yeah, for me, it's also why, can explain why breathing is so important in all those yogas
yes.
and traditional ancient techniques.
There's
Because,
something
yeah,
also, there's also something fundamental about breathing, that the act of drawing in air is the display of anti-collapse. When you
mm,
draw in air, you physically enlarge.
hmm,
And when you think about that conversion from the aquatic environment to the to gas and solid environment, um, the number one thing we have to figure out is how not to collapse. So there's something so fundamental about the breath, in that every breath you take, you are defying the forces that are trying to, not trying to, these forces don't
yeah,
have an intention, but you're defying the forces that would collapse you otherwise.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. And when you see a sick person or one of his kids or an old person that gave up life, even the breath starts to do the opposite. It doesn't
Yes,
support, it pulls you
yes, it
more and
pulls
more and more,
pulls you in, pulls you in.
yeah,
Yeah.
towards the earth. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Well, today was,
Okay.
yeah, today was very fruitful. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you very much. Thank
And
you. Thank you.
let me know. I mean, he hasn't responded on timing, but I can make, I'll make myself available for whenever works for you guys on Sunday. So
I think he always does it in the afternoon because it's his thing.
yeah,
So maybe, I don't know. It's usually five. Usually, Leonid usually talks to us around 5, 6 our time, Lisbon
okay,
time, UK time.
that
So
would,
I don't know what it makes for you. So
no,
let's see.
that'd be good. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna stop recording.
Yep.
Just to let you. How do I stop the recording now here? Tick. Uh, yes.